A judge's ordeal when justice turns on its own. In the bustling heart of New Haven, Connecticut, Judge Elias Thorne, a respected pillar of justice, found his unwavering faith in the system profoundly shaken one quiet evening. After a grueling day presiding over a complex corporate fraud trial, the judge, a man in his late 50s with distinguished streaks of gray in his hair, was inexplicably accused of stealing his own car, a black Cadillac Escalade. The sun had long set, leaving the streets of New Haven bathed in the warm, amber glow of streetlights. Elias, trying to shed the day's exhaustion, sat behind the wheel at the intersection of Chapel and York Streets. His tie was loosened, his mind already drifting towards the comfort of home. Then, flashing red and blue lights materialized in his rearview mirror. Frowning, Elias pulled over, perplexed, as he hadn't been speeding or breaking any laws. A sharp tap on his driver's side window startled him. He turned to face Officer Brenda Maxwell, a blonde woman in her early 40s, sharp-eyed and rigid. "License and registration," she demanded, her voice devoid of any greeting. Elias complied, handing over his documents, but Maxwell barely glanced at them. Instead, her eyes locked onto him, scrutinizing him as if he were a hardened criminal, not a respected judge. "Is this your car?" she snapped, her tone laced with suspicion. "Yes," Elias replied calmly. "Is there a problem?" Maxwell's next words hit him like a cold splash. "Tell me where you got it." Elias blinked, the absurdity of the accusation overwhelming. "It's mine," he stated, his voice steady despite his rising disbelief. Without verifying his registration, Maxwell raised her radio. "Potential stolen vehicle. Need backup." Elias's heart sank. He'd seen the scenario play out countless times in his courtroom, people judged not by facts, but by insidious bias. Soon, another patrol car screeched to a halt. Out stepped Officer David Sterling, younger, tense, his fingers twitching near his belt. His eyes didn't bother with the car's plates or registration. They fixed on Elias, seeing him simply as a black man driving a car too nice for him. "Step out of the vehicle," Maxwell barked. "I have," Elias responded evenly. "You have my ID and registration. Run your system. You'll see the car is mine." "Out," Maxwell repeated, more forceful this time. Maintaining his control, Elias slowly opened the door, keeping his hands visible. The moment he stepped out, Maxwell grabbed his wrist and spun him around. "I'm not under arrest. No crime has been committed," Elias said, struggling to keep his voice steady. Maxwell snapped back. "Because I said so," Sterling cut in. "Judge or not, you don't get special treatment." Elias inhaled deeply. This wasn't about special treatment. It was about basic justice, something he had spent decades defending. Maxwell's radio crackled with a status update. She hesitated, with no solid cause to justify detaining Elias, but she refused to back down. His pulse thundered, a glimmer of hope and a deeper spiral. A flicker of hope emerged with the arrival of Sergeant Marcus Mack Miller, a seasoned cop in his late 50s. Mack observed silently, then asked, "What's going on here?" Maxwell rattled off her version. Possible stolen vehicle. Driver refusing to comply. Mack looked at Elias's ID, then back at him. "Judge Elias Thorne," he said quietly, his tone softening as he turned to Elias. "Are you all right?" Elias calmly explained. "I complied with every order." License and registration were given. Officer Maxwell refused to verify and escalated the situation. Mack's eyes narrowed. "Did you run these plates?" Maxwell hesitated. The truth of her oversight laid bare. Mack grabbed the registration, called in the plate number, and moments later, the answer came back. No stolen report. Vehicle registered to Elias Thorne. Yet, despite the clearing evidence, Maxwell's expression hardened, and Sterling's fingers twitched with growing impatience. The tension thickened. Mack looked from Maxwell to Sterling, then back at Elias. This shouldn't have happened. Elias's jaw tightened. He'd spent his career fighting systemic injustice, and now he was living it. Just as Mack was about to take full control, Maxwell's radio crackled again. Her face paled slightly. "Sergeant, we have a report. A tip about a black Cadillac involved in a recent hit and run." Mack's eyes locked on Elias. Was it you tonight? I was nowhere near such an incident, Elias replied firmly. This is a mistake. Maxwell's lips pressed together, but Sterling leaned in, his expression suggestive. Maybe it's a mix-up, Max said cautiously. We need to sort this out carefully. Elias nodded, though inside, frustration and fear simmered. The very law he upheld was faltering before his eyes. Suddenly, another car pulled up, an unmarked vehicle, dark and ominous. A man in plain clothes stepped out, flashing a badge too quickly for Elias to catch. The air shifted. This was no routine check. We're taking over this investigation, the newcomer announced. Mac glanced at Elias, then back at his officers. You heard him. Stand down. Maxwell's eyes burned with resistance, but Sterling's grip on his belt relaxed. The plainclothes officer approached Elias, speaking with a mixture of authority and sympathy. Judge Thorne, we need to talk about that hit and run. Elias's breath caught. The night had spiraled far beyond his control. He looked up at the blinking lights, the impatient faces, the weight of suspicion pressing down. Had justice finally failed him? Or was this just the beginning of a deeper, darker truth waiting to surface? The night was far from over. The unyielding stand for accountability. The story then fast-forwards to a pivotal moment after the initial confusion has been somewhat cleared. Despite Mac's confirmation that the Cadillac was indeed Elias's, Officer Maxwell remained stubbornly defiant, still insisting he was acting suspiciously. Mac, his voice low but cutting, challenged her. You had all this information and still escalated the situation. Do you even hear yourself? Maxwell muttered, I was just being careful. No, you were reckless. Mac shot back. When Maxwell defensively asked how she was supposed to know who Elias was, Mac retorted, You weren't supposed to know. You were supposed to do your job right. Elias, steady and resolute, looked Maxwell directly in the eye. Do you believe you had legitimate cause to detain me? Maxwell's throat tightened. Her silence was a stark admission. There was no cause, only bias. Max sighed deeply. Judge Thorne, you're free to go. Elias reached for his door, but stopped. Years spent enforcing the law and exposing bias had brought him to this humiliating, unjust accusation. How could he simply walk away, knowing that countless others, without his privilege, faced far worse? He turned back. No, he said firmly. I'm filing a formal complaint. Officer Maxwell abused her authority tonight, and I want it on record. Maxwell's cheeks flushed crimson. You can't be serious. I'm a judge, Elias calmly replied. When I say something, I mean it. Mac nodded slowly. That's your right, and you'll have to answer for this. Maxwell's defiance flickered into fear. The system hadn't yet decided whether to protect her again or hold her accountable. Mac pulled out his notepad. Officer Maxwell, state for the record why you initiated this detention. Suspicious activity, she forced out, her voice strained. And what was suspicious? Mac pressed. Maxwell hesitated, then faltered. Mac shook his head. None. Maxwell's fist clenched. This is ridiculous. Are we really going to let people like him intimidate us? Elias let the words settle, the casual bigotry chilling. People like him. Mac stepped forward, his voice low but dangerously firm, silencing Maxwell, who showed no remorse, only regret at being caught. I'll make sure this is documented, Mac told Elias. Elias nodded. Good. But I also want to speak with Captain Emerson tonight. Maxwell's panic became palpable. Mac made the call. Patch me through to the captain. We have an urgent situation. Maxwell's composure finally cracked. You really doing this? She snapped. Yes, Elias replied calmly. If I don't, who will? The drive home felt profoundly different. The city lights blurred past, but Elias was no longer the same man who had left the courthouse hours ago. His faith in the system was shaken. He wondered, would Maxwell face real consequences? Or would she be quietly reassigned, given sensitivity training, and allowed to continue abusing power? He thought of the countless other black men, without a judge's protection, who face encounters like this daily, often without justice. The system, he knew, only changes under pressure. Tonight, he was that pressure. Sitting in his driveway, Elias felt the weight of the fight ahead. It wasn't just about him. It was about every person denied dignity by those sworn to protect. Tomorrow, he wouldn't just file a complaint. He would demand transparency, accountability, and real change. Because if a judge could be treated this way, what did that mean for everyone else? The fight had only just begun.